Cindy. This is not the first time that Cindy has set up events for me and hosted me and done such a wonderful job. If we're going to work on Congress, you know, because there's so many other places to work on education and outreach and local and state campaigns, but if we're going to work on our government in Washington, it's going to involve the Congress, not the president. You know, when did we ever imagine we could lobby George W. Bush to do what we wanted? And it's not senators. It's virtually impossible to get at senators. It's the House of Representatives. And if we're going to go after them, we're going to have to try to get a group of them together that will do things. It's a radical idea. You know, you have these caucuses of Congress members that do things, but none of them are on the side of the majority of Americans, right? The Blue Dog Caucus will almost routinely put a line in the sand and say, we won't support this bill unless you make it worse in the following ways. And they get what they want, or most of it, and then they support the bill. The Progressive Caucus, which is twice the size of the Blue Dogs, the biggest caucus in Congress, has never, ever done a single thing. It's resume padding. They come home and say, I'm in the Progressive Caucus. Well, what'd you have to do to get in? Nothing. Well, what duties are involved? None. Nobody will organize a caucus to stand for anything. Marcy Winograd would do all of those things. Marcy Winograd would triple the strength of the Progressive Caucus just by showing up. Marcy Winograd is running against Jane Harman. They're people who all have to be rewarded and all have to be punished. And you build a much better relationship with them that way, by being hard on them than by kissing up to them. There are a couple other ways that Congress could have some power, and one of the themes in my book is the question of where power has moved within the government in Washington. And if I were to knock on your door and hand you a subpoena, and you were to tell me to go to hell, what would happen to you?
Be arrested.
You'd be in jail right away. Well, through 2007 and 2008, dozens of top officials were subpoenaed by Congress who said, nah, gotta go golfing. Oh, I'm shopping for shoes that day. Go ahead without me. And that was that, right? No congressional committee has had the nerve to enforce a subpoena in 75 years. Who knows what inherent contempt is?
What you just described.
It sounds like
it's the feeling in your stomach when Karl Rove comes on the screen. Right?
When Congress enforces.
Yes, some of you obviously know what inherent contempt it is. It is the inherent right of a congressional committee to preserve its own existence and respectability by enforcing its own subpoenas, by literally holding people in contempt in jail until they testify to the satisfaction of that committee, which is not just, I do not recall, sir. I do not recall, ma'am. It is to the satisfaction of the committee. Hasn't been used in 75 years because they made it a statutory crime. They let the Justice Department enforce it. And then they started trying to subpoena employees of the Justice Department and members of the Bush-Cheney crime family, and it didn't work out. And so they went through this pretense, and then they took them to court instead of enforcing the subpoenas themselves. And we get to 2009 up through 2010, and who knows exactly how many of those people have been re-subpoenaed?
none.
None. Not a single one. They were playing games with us for 2 years, right? And why were they pretending to try to subpoena people for 2 years? What was the stronger tool they could have used, but they'd already taken off the table? Impeachment. Without that, there's no real teeth to anything, to subpoenas or anything else, to laws, to passing legislation.